Tony Khan has commented on CM Punk. Does WWE counter-programming impact AEW? And what's going on with Chris Jericho? We're going to talk about it. Tony Khan was a guest on the Ariel Helwani show last night, and there is a lot to cover. It was a much better interview than the last one on the Ariel Helwani show. A much better interview. And we're going to go and break down pretty much everything that was said on it, because when I say it's a lot, it's
he asked him
juicy.
like every single big juicy question.
Literally every big juicy question, and instead of like no comments or anything, Tony Khan gave us a lot of answers,
Which, you know, fair play.
And when the interview was announced, the big one was, is he going to talk about CM Punk? Is he going to talk about CM Punk in the situation that went down almost 2.5 years ago at this point?
Illegally releasing the backstage footage and the British law. There's so much. And he did get asked about it. So on the CM Punk situation, he was asked how he handled it in the backstage altercation footage with Jack Perry, and if all that situation, how it went down. He said, I think the tape spoke for itself, and I think that I didn't agree with how it happened, and obviously it was a major part of why things were no longer able to continue with us, even though I would have liked to have been able to. It was clear when we started doing Collision, I wanted to reconcile and find a way to still do those things, and I guess that wasn't possible. I wanted to find a way for everybody to be able to work together, and that didn't work, and that's okay. It seems like everybody's happier and doing better right now, and I know in AEW right now, everybody's really happy. And it feels like this is the best locker room since being in the Jacksonville locker room days in lockdown. Yeah.
This is I'm glad we've moved past, the initial reactions of the CM Punk stuff.
It was a very controversial decision to air the footage. It was a very controversial situation. Generally, nobody looked good on any side, I think, from it. Punk in particular. It was sort of the decision to release it, I feel, made the entire thing a lot more flammable.
Flammable's
it felt like it just sort of went.
To counterpoint that, great TV.
Oh yeah,
oh my
fantastic
God,
TV.
The fact that it was the week after WrestleMania, and the Dynamite is the talking point coming out of that week because of the CM Punk footage. Now, granted, as you said, Sam, it was more flammable.
It was like throwing a big bottle of diesel on the fire, but it did do what it needed to do for them, I guess, in that regard. I still think that it wasn't the best for that just generally to have happened, for it to have got out in the way it got out, for it then to have been showed on TV. It just felt very like grubby, didn't it?
It felt very much like it felt like we were harkening back to the days of the Attitude Era, but it was legit.
Yeah,
like it was
kind of high schooly. So, but as you said, it's kind of nice that we seem to have moved on past that, and that as he says, the locker room feels like it's a different thing now, and it's okay if that didn't work out. He did try, or. I think there was a lot of speculation that the second that happened, it was going to be like, that's it. Your underlines like no more, get out. But it's just interesting to hear this stuff after so long when it's just been speculation.
It's been a long time. And the thing that sort of led to that footage being released was CM Punk on the Ariel Helwani show. And he had criticisms of Tony Khan, one of them being that people walk all over him. He doesn't stand up for himself. And he's sort of a boss that just allows people to do whatever they want.
Just happy-go-lucky.
Pot calling the kettle black, because CM Punk is the one that was walking all over him, according, allegedly. Well, when asked about that on last night's show, Tony Khan says, I don't agree with that, but everybody is entitled to their opinion. That's feedback and fair if that's how he feels. I didn't agree with the description of the way things played out, and that's okay. That's all in the eye of the beholder, just the whole situation. AEW is doing really well right now, and I'm really happy with what the people on the shows are doing, and it wasn't the first time he and I disagreed, and it may not be the last, and that's okay. I tried to reconcile, and I wanted to find a way for everybody to work together, and it didn't work out, and that's okay. Again, he's going back to the thing that he feels about the CM Punk.
It may not be the last. CM Punk back to AEW confirmed.
You've heard it here first, lads. Back to AEW. I feel like this is him allowing that door to remain slightly open, because this is from Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp was saying that only one person has actually burned the bridge with AEW, and it's someone no one would expect.
Yeah.
So if it's only one person, the first person you'd expect to see CM Punk. So I feel like it's wrestling. We've seen people work together again after lots of drama.
But
if he wanted to.
Well, it's never say never in wrestling. It's the general rule, right? But I think that it's interesting looking at it from this point of view, because really it is just kind of he said, she said a little bit. And you know how wrestling gets where, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years after the fact, we're still kind of talking about these controversial moments and stories, and we're still sort of like, it's never going to go away. It's always going to be one of those things that's attached to AEW as a brand, in its earlier years, and hopefully, like 10, 15 years from now, we're not talking about it, but it's definitely going to be something that's still getting talked about.
Oh, for sure.
As long as CM Punk is out there, and involved in the industry in some way, people are going to be discussing this.
People are going to discuss it. People are going to be asking questions. It's going to be a big thing. And to be honest, although it's a few years ago, it's still very entertaining to learn more about it and hear more about it. And eventually, hopefully, we'll hear the entire story in just a nice sit down or a dark side of the ring or something like that. But he was also asked about Adam Cole's future. Now, Cole has been out injured for a little while, and it's kind of a worrying situation.
It was a very emotional moment when it was kind of announced by Cole as well. So obviously, it's a very serious thing. But when Khan was asked about the wrestling future of Adam Cole, he said it'd have to be the right situation for Cole to wrestle again, but he would want to keep Cole as part of the AEW family. He continued on to say, I've been open with him that when he's ready, there's always a role in AEW for him. He had been a commentator at times, and he's been one of the hosts of the shows. He's great for that. He's a great talent. He can be involved in a lot of things. If he ever did want to wrestle again, and it was the right situation, and everyone could wrap their heads around it, so to speak, I think that it could make a lot of sense. But anything involving head injuries or serious injuries, I always want to look at it and evaluate. And that's, obviously a massively, massively important thing in the industry these days is, this awareness of what head injuries can do. And, you look back to the times when we were younger, and there was, even then, we were talking 10, 15 years ago.
There was confusion about it.
There was a lot less knowledge about this. And so the fact it's being taken more seriously, and, the fact that the door is slightly ajar there for, if the situation is right, if he does want to wrestle, and if it is the right situation and it can be pulled off, then hell yeah, let's see Adam Cole back. But I think it's important to see, it's important to kind of show that, as he said, Adam Cole's got a lot of skills and he's part of the AEW family.
Yeah, he could fill in many roles should he want to stay around wrestling despite the injury. We hope Adam Cole's recovery is going well, and hopefully, I wish we could see him wrestle again, and hopefully we will, but obviously it's something that will need to be discussed with the medical team. One of the big roles, though, Adam Cole had prior to that injury, it was a controversial storyline with one MJF, and that was kind of the big memory of Adam Cole in AEW and at the peak of that run. But MJF, obviously continuing past that point, he's had some time off recently. Yeah. He's had some time off, and everyone's been going, what's he been up to? What's he doing? Well, Khan revealed that MJF is expected to be back in AEW very, very soon.
He's just got bloody married. Let him have like a month or two off, man.
He was on Dynamite the day after his wedding. He probably should enjoy a honeymoon and some time off. That's the thing. WWE and AEW don't have off seasons. Wrestling doesn't have an off season, so you kind of have to really hope that you're not being used in a storyline when you want a weekend away or something.
Otherwise, you've got to wait till you roll your ankle badly and you're off TV for a month. And it's we can get married now.
We can get married. Go snap. Well, that's
you hobble down the aisle.
Hopefully he'll be hobbling back down the aisle to the wrestling ring very, very soon. Also on the Ariel Helwani show, Tony Khan was asked about WWE's ticket pricing.
It's one of the biggest stories in the industry right now is the pricing structure of WWE under TKO's ownership. And it's obviously there's been a lot of comparisons between WWE ticket pricing and AEW ticket pricing already, with AEW always seemingly coming in lower than what WWE's doing, which it's doubled in the year since, and it looks set to double again.
Yesterday the tickets for WrestleMania this year went on sale, and the highest packages.
Next year.
Yeah, or next year. Yeah, this coming year. It was $37,000.
And that was second row.
Second row. That's an insane amount of money, and there's a lot of discussion online about the ticket prices, and obviously it's astronomical numbers that families can no longer afford to pay for a whole family to go.
And I guess it's this. I don't know if WWE is looking at wrestling as less of a family oriented thing anymore.
It could be,
but I think that there was always this drive in the industry, and there was always that kind of base of followers that it was kind of family led, wasn't it? you would watch it as a kid, like your
you
parents would take you to a show. You grow up in it, right?
Yeah, well, Tony Khan, speaking on that, says we have different models comparing it to WWE when it comes to distribution. I think that what we do is very good, and it's been working for us. From the very beginning of AEW, whether it was the beginning calls before we'd done a live event, we talked about how I always wanted there to be tickets in the range of $20 to $30 for fans to be able to get into the TV shows every week, and that would be a consistent theme in AEW. There still is inexpensive ticketing, and the get-in price is usually pretty fair compared to the competition. It's always lower. The ringside seats are more expensive than the highest tier, but they're still more affordable than our competitor. And they always have been, and I hope they always will be. I'll try to keep that affordable pricing. That's something I care about, and making sure that families and friends can go to the show. Me and Tom discussed it on the news a few weeks ago in the sense that, as you mentioned, I went to the WWE as a kid, and it was my whole family that went.
Yeah.
Now, my parents would not be able to afford to take me, my brother, both of them to the show, especially when it's only one kid in the family that likes the wrestling.
I think that the last house show I paid for from WWE was 45-ish, and that was like a pretty decent seat. It wasn't on the floor or anything, but it was like first tier, pretty good side-on sort of hard cam style view, and it was great. And then, you know, they came back and it was £98 or something for restricted view, with the back row starting at 115. And obviously there's a scarcity now with WWE live events, and they're kind of, it's a commodity.
They're not as common,
but it's one of those things where, like, I just feel that there are so many venues out there. And I get that it's different being a company and being a venue, but there are so many venues out there that have like agreements where, yes, tickets are going to be expensive, but there's always at least one block, or there's always at least one little bit of a tier that's slightly lesser priced, in order to make sure that everybody can enjoy the show. And I understand TKO wanting to make massive amounts of profit, but I think that wrestling has traditionally always had this family slant to it.
It does, yes.
And I think that, as you said, when you grow up in it, you want to go to these shows, and to be able to take your kid to these shows must feel amazing.
And especially when you compare the ticket prices, if you're looking at a $30 ticket versus a $150 ticket, I know which one I'm going to choose. Oh God, yeah. And I think that's a lot of the criticism that we see online for the ticket prices for each, is the fact that it's all the tribalist people that are always commenting on it, going,
two dogs behind
WWE.
that. You know the meme of the dogs on either side of the gate, and then the gate opens and they just stop.
And they're fine. they argue that AEW's selling tickets at a lower price is bad compared to WWE at a higher price, which is good. It doesn't make sense. I think
there's economy to look at. There's everything else to sort of weigh up. You'd
want tickets as cheap as possible. That makes the most sense for you as a consumer. But anyway, they also spoke about the WWE counter-programming AEW adjacent to the sort of ticketing pricing. Tony Khan revealing that he feels it's intentional, but it's not really impacting AEW.
Yeah, he said, I do think it's done on purpose, you think? And I understand it. It's a part of wrestling. I think we've seen a lot of it, but I think other wrestling promotions have that have been the challenger wrestling brand of our lifetime have seen a lot of it. I think it's okay, because for us, it's always worked out, and we're in a great position. It hasn't ever been like a thing where it's cost us anything. And even when you do something like AEW All in Texas, where we do the show in the afternoon, it really worked out for us great. And it was one of the best days in the history of the company. I believe he also drew parallels to, you know, Ted Turner having to deal with it.
Yes.
And then to Ted Turner actually partaking in it himself.
Yes.
So it seems he understands that sometimes this is going to happen, or not, maybe every time this is going to happen. But at the same time, he is kind of saying, I guess, in a way there, when he brought that up, that, well, AEW can always try and counter-program WWE. Now, there's a lot of tribalist fans out there kind of going, wait, like, yeah, I get that. But it's one of those things where it is just part of the industry, as horrible as it is. Everybody wants to be the number one in their
on
sort
your field,
of area.
There's always going to be that. I think he specifically mentioning the All in Texas being moved to the afternoon, I think is a very smart decision, because the AEW shows have performed better when they're on an earlier time slot. So the counter programming, it doesn't really impact them, because they're able to move.
I'm in my 30s, right? And nightclubs now are opening through the day. So you can go and party on like the daytime, and then you get kicked out at like 7:30, 8 p.m.
Lovely.
And then you get home at a reasonable hour.
You're in bed for Big Brother, and you can watch. Yeah, you gore that.
It's so good.
It's great. Just everything should start a little bit earlier. Gigs as well.
Yeah, it's better for us.
You mentioned the parallels to WCW, because he was also speaking about the TNA partnership with WWE. And Khan had said, I do think you have a strong challenger brand. It's not unusual deal to see the WWE collaborate with another company. I don't take it personally. It makes sense looking at the wrestling playbook for the WWF. He also made parallels.
Did he call them the WWF?
So, yes, he did call them the WWF because he was drawing parallels to the fact that when the WWF partnered with Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Right, so he's talking,
he's talking in hindsight. The Fed.
I was like, is he still calling them the Fed?
Well, he was a big, he was on the wrestling boards back in the days. He probably does call it the Fed, doesn't he? So. Probably calls it the Fed. But yeah, looking at the timeline of when they did it with WCW and the partnerships with Smoky Mountain and all of those, it's always when there's a strong challenger brand.
There was ECW, which was obviously on the up, and you had that famous moment where Vince is sat there going, "They're chanting for Savio Vega," and it's EC and then he stops mentioning it when he realizes what they're chanting, and then very quickly after that you start to see the little 1997 ECW invasion, don't you? So it's sort of they've partnered with brands that they can either feel they can learn from and take from, and they've partnered with brands that they want to lift into a position.
WWE parallel. Taking from a partner brand. Joe Hendry. One name though that has recently moved from WWE to AEW and then disappeared altogether is Andrade. He recently joined AEW for a one-time appearance that went nowhere because of a contract situation.
Yeah, he was told you can't do that.
Yes.
But yeah, so essentially when he was asked about the status with the company and Andrade and everything, he said that he thinks the world of him. He said that during his last run in AEW, he had a great experience with him and he left on the best of terms, adding that anytime is free, wherever that is, he's absolutely always welcome. It's an interesting situation that I'm going to keep an eye on, but I absolutely think the world of Andrade El Idolo.
It is a big cluster fudge.
It is a cluster fudge. I thought you were going to say something else there, and I was about to be like, Fraser, no!
No, it's a cluster fudge with Andrade at the moment because we don't really know what his non-compete terms are, but he appeared on AEW for one night, he joined the Don Callis family, and now he's gone. Obviously, there's not much that Tony Khan can say on that apart from we're interested. Hopefully, at some point, he'll be back.
And there is a lot of speculation that obviously, if it was to progress to court, it would probably cost an inordinate amount of money, but it would be thrown out.
Probably would.
There's a lot of discussion about that is maybe a possibility, but 1 year is quite a long time to have to wait.
It's a very long time considering how quickly he appeared on AEW programming after he left WWE.
And
it was
considering he's not like 21 or 22 anymore, like a year of your career that you could be earning a hell of a lot of money. It's a long time out. Well, one person who left WWE and hasn't appeared on AEW programming is one Karrion Killer Kross. Tony Khan was asked about Killer Kross and whether he has any interest in him in joining AEW. Tony Khan revealed that he's not spoken to Killer Kross in many years, does like the former WWE star, and admits that it would be interesting and worth reconnecting between them. Now, as much as I want to take his word on that one, I feel like if he was going to bring him to AEW, it would have happened already. By now. I think the thing that's interesting for me with Kross right now is obviously all this ancillary content around him. Like he's got that short that's on the Oscar short list and stuff. Yeah. I think that Kross is now at a stage in his career where it's almost like when Drew left and reinvented himself through Impact. I feel that Kross will go somewhere, and I may be completely wrong, but I feel like he'll go somewhere where there is a really strong piece of creative, even if it's just one program. But I think that having that massive storyline makes him a massive featured traveling star.
Kind of do the territories and just do big name promotions.
He go, from promotion to promotion to promotion.
I would like to have seen that, but half of the independent promotions right now are closing down in the States. So it's like
the industry's really, we're hearing on one side that we're in a massive boom phase, and we're seeing on the other that indies are shuttering left, right, and center. And it's quite a scary time.
Any independent star like Killer Kross, Karrion Kross, your option is the WWE family of TNA, AAA, even Noah to an extent, or you do the AEW family where it's AEW, New Japan, CMLL, Ring of Honor. You kind of don't have many options in the US. Over here in the UK, you've got a couple more, but over in the US, it seems to be quite tough. So with a comment on Killer Kross being like, well, we'll reconnect, it could lead to something, but it might not. One name though that's been absent from AEW program that everyone wants to see back is Will Ospreay. He's been out of action since August at Forbidden Door, recovering from neck surgery. Tony Khan wants to see him back soon and has said that he hopes that he'll be back in the first half of 2026.
I mean, it's still quite a quick turnaround. That obviously Ospreay, it's going off everything Tony said already. It feels like he's not going to return him until he's absolutely ready. Yeah. But I think having that return is going to be a massive get for AEW because obviously he's one of the biggest draws.
So one of the biggest stars in the industry.
Yeah, I think that the second he's back, then they can hit the ground running with it. But right now, it does feel like we were in a bit of a holding pattern, but it feels like we're slowly meandering out of it.
My guess is Ospreay is back in time for the Owen. Wins the Owen, challenges for the world title in Wembley next year. I feel like that's a nice path for him to come back.
Yeah.
Means that he's returning in like May, which is still the first half of the year. We know his weight training is going to begin in January, so it's not too long to wait for Ospreay. One thing that has been speculatory online is, will WWE and AEW work together for John Cena's retirement tour, specifically in discussion about Edge? We've talked about it before. We've put the rumors to bed before. But Tony Khan has fully just shut everything down on this front, because even if you think AEW's blocked it from happening, WWE doesn't want to reach out, well, they didn't bother reaching out in the first place, according to Tony Khan. And he said that he revealed that WWE never reached out at all about using Edge. So we're not going to see it.
But I have seen these interesting little things going around. Remember Cena going like, "Hi Nick Nemeth,
hi
Matt Cardona, hi Claudio Castagnoli."
Yeah.
What if it's not Edge, but they for some reason bring in Cesaro? And then he's technically right. He's like, they never reached out to me about Edge.
About Edge?
Yeah.
Or it could be the next star we're about to round off with Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho's name has been talked about for a wee while. Of where is he? What's going on with Chris Jericho?
And he's sitting on private planes going, pondering, TNA are the second biggest company in the world, the second best priest, the second best priest, just circling around Tony's head.
Or when he's on red carpets for Hollywood Horror Nights and he's going, I'd be open at returning to WWE.
Look, who's got the fattest bags of money? Essentially. That's basically it.
Chris Jericho's had a very long run in AEW. It's been a very productive run.
He's been a massive part of it from the get-go. And I think that, he's done, like, yes, there's been some moments where it's like, will you just go out on tour with Fozzy, please, for a year? But he has done more beneficial things for AEW than any degree of harm. And I think that it would be foolish for AEW to just let him walk. But at the same time, it depends where Jericho is in his career. We all speculate that, if Jericho is to go back to WWE, it's going to be as Y2J. It's going to be for that big retirement run, probably a featured game appearance, or a story mode or something. Probably. And you get that big 1 year run. You get that big Mania match, Hall of Fame, everything else. But is Jericho ready for that yet?
I think he is. I think when you said that he's been very beneficial for AEW, he absolutely has been.
Does he feel like he's ready for it?
That's the question. He's been very beneficial for AEW, but the last few years, it's not been the most productive or the most entertaining of stuff.
Why was he just, I know putting him with Ring of Honor and it was like, he's elevating people, but it felt so disjointed, and it was like you could be using him for so much more than this.
The question is, I think right now, though, I think the AEW audience, they maybe have moved past what Chris Jericho can give them. However, Chris Jericho's last year and a half on AEW programming has been very WWE coded. It's been this sports entertainment gimmick, and it's been the learning tree, which feels very WWE. And I feel like at this point, he is ready to have that retirement run that maybe lasts a little bit longer than the Cena retirement run of a year, but have that run where he's just able to be Chris Jericho without having to have the backstage hats on that he wears.
Yeah.
But Tony Khan saying, we'll see what happens in the coming months, but that Jericho is always welcome and a big part of AEW, confirming they'd always want to have the former AEW champion in the company. Not surprising, he'd want to keep him.
No, not at all. I mean, he's obviously one of the biggest stars of all time. Like, so I think that, even if he's not to be an in-ring performer, you'd still want him on the books somehow. But it's one of those things where I guess, it was pointed out very early on by people like Chris Jericho. Having a company like AEW is a massive benefit for the business because it means that there are more jobs for everybody and it means that there are higher pay packets for everybody.
Everything goes up.
And so everybody should be looking out for themselves and everybody should be wanting to get the most money they can possibly get out of each contract because the industry is supposedly doing better.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where he's going to want to retain him, but it depends where Jericho is on a personal level, I guess.
Well, one thing we can say, prediction just now, Sam, you and me, does Chris Jericho return to WWE before the Royal Rumble? Or does he come back at the Royal Rumble?
I think if they're able to sneak him in somehow, it's Rumble.
I think it's also Rumble.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments below if you think Chris Jericho's heading back to WWE or is he staying with AEW? But that is all we've got for you just now. We might be back later on today with some more wrestling news. We will see you later on.